It was a quiet Father's Day morning, and the house smelled faintly of old coffee and lemon polish. The doorbell rang just as I was reaching for my newspaper. When I opened the door, a small cardboard box sat on the welcome mat, unmarked, except for my name written in a careful, familiar hand. Elise's handwriting. My heart paused. My daughter hadn't contacted me in years. Not after the shouting match. Not after the day she left this house and never looked back. I stood there frozen, staring at the box like it was breathing. I picked it up gently. It was light, but the balance was strange, heavier on one side. No sound inside when I gave it the gentlest shake. Taped around the edges with care, not sloppily, not rushed. This wasn't from a company. This was sent with intention. My wife, Lorraine, stepped into the doorway behind me. Her eyes narrowed the moment she saw what I was holding. "Who sent that?" she asked. "Elise," I replied, quietly. The air shifted. Her body stiffened. She took a slow step back, as though the box had started ticking. "Don't open it," she said, almost too quickly. I blinked. "What?" She repeated it, this time firmer. "Don't open it." I laughed a little, trying to diffuse the tension. "Come on, Lorraine. It's probably just a letter or something. It's been years." Her eyes didn't move from the package. She stepped closer and said, more softly, "Can't you see?" I looked down. That's when I really noticed. The return address wasn't Elise's old apartment. In fact, it wasn't a home at all. It was a logistics warehouse in another city. The tape was double-layered at the seams, and there was a small indent near the bottom corner, as if something had been tucked inside the cardboard before it was sealed. The weight distribution was uneven. Not like a book. Not like clothes. Something about it suddenly felt cold. I looked up at Lorraine. Her face was pale, her jaw tight. "Please," she said, barely above a whisper. "Just trust me." I didn't move for a long moment. My hand still held the box, but my fingers loosened slightly. I could feel my breath catching. Elise had always been unpredictable, but never cruel. Still, the silence between us had stretched for years, deep and hollow. Was this her olive branch, or something else entirely? I set the box down slowly on the hall table, and waited. She was only 16 when the shift began. Subtle at first, like the quiet drawing of a keratin. Elise had always been sharp, independent, a little fiery like her mother. After her mother passed, there was an aching silence in the house, and I tried, God knows I tried, to fill that space for her. But grief creates its own language, and we spoke in different dialects. Lorraine entered our lives 2 years later. She was calm, composed, efficient. She brought order to chaos. She also brought rules. Elise respected none of them. They clashed constantly. At the dinner table, in the hallway, over clothes, curfews, even music. But it wasn't about those things. Not really. It was about loyalty. Elise believed loving Lorraine meant betraying her late mother, and Lorraine saw Elise as a wild card that needed discipline. It came to a head one afternoon in the living room. Lorraine had removed a photo of Elise's mom from the mantel, said it was time to move forward. Elise found it in a drawer. I still remember her voice trembling as she held the frame. "You don't get to erase her." Lorraine had replied coldly, "We can't keep living in the past." That was the first time Elise screamed, and the last time she looked at Lorraine with anything but contempt. 2 weeks later, she packed a duffel bag and walked out. No hug, no goodbye, just a tight-lipped nod at me. I still hear the slam of the front door sometimes in my sleep. For months, I tried reaching her. I sent emails, texts, even wrote a letter in longhand, something we used to do when she was little. No reply. She'd blocked my number. I couldn't find her on social media. Lorraine said, "She doesn't want you anymore. Accept it." But I never did. I kept her room untouched for a year. I left her birthday card on her old desk, just in case she ever came home. Lorraine grew tired of my waiting. She called it clinging to a ghost. So eventually, I let the room become a study. But I never stopped hoping. And now, out of the blue, this box. Her handwriting. Her name. 3 years of silence. And suddenly this package is sitting on my front step like an answer I never expected. I stare at it again from across the room. Is it a gift? A warning? A closure? Or is it Elise, in the only way she knows how, saying, "I still remember you"? I don't know, but I want to. I sat at the dining table with the box in front of me, the morning light casting long, uncertain shadows across its brown surface. The more I looked, the more questions surfaced. From a distance, it had seemed simple. Now, every inch whispered something different. The handwriting on the shipping label, it wasn't Elise's. At least, not the handwriting I remembered from birthday cards or the notes she used to leave on the fridge. This was too clean, precise, almost mechanical, like someone trying to mimic natural writing but missing the rhythm of a human hand. Then there was the return address, Unit 4B, North Star Fulfillment, Willowton. Willowton. That was Elise's last known city before she disappeared offline. But this wasn't a home. It was a distribution center, the kind used for mass mailouts and bulk shipping. I leaned closer, running my fingers gently across the label, my thumb catching on a faint indentation. Something had been written underneath, then erased. I tilted the box toward the light, and there it was, the outline of an older address, perhaps handwritten and quickly covered with a printed label. Only fragments were visible, but it didn't look like a warehouse. It looked like a street name. That's when I noticed the sticker, barely larger than a postage stamp. Transparent, placed right at the top seam. Words etched in silver font, scanned before opening. No barcode, no explanation, just those 3 words. I called Lorraine over. She hesitated at the edge of the kitchen, arms folded tightly. I pointed to the sticker. She stared at it for a long time before speaking. "That's not a gift," she said flatly. "That's a warning." I swallowed. It's probably some security thing. Maybe a modern delivery tag. She shook her head slowly. Then why cover the original address? Why send it from a warehouse? Why use handwriting that isn't hers? I couldn't answer. The box felt different now, heavier with implication than with contents. My chest tightened. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. It's just cardboard and tape. But doubt has a way of infecting reason. I lifted the box gently, as if it might shatter. Turned it over. Checked for wires, bulges, anything odd. Nothing. Just a faint, musky smell, like something stored too long in a dark place. I sat back, exhaling. My palms were damp. If Elise sent this, what was she trying to say? And if she didn't, then who did? I left the box untouched on the table and walked downstairs, the wooden steps creaking beneath my weight like tired sighs. The air in the basement was cooler, heavy with dust and time. Cobwebs clung to the corners like old regrets. I flicked on the light, and the single bulb above me glowed dimly, like it too had grown weary of this house. I knelt beside an old chest tucked beneath the shelving. The lock was broken years ago. Inside it were memories I hadn't touched in far too long. Photographs, letters, drawings, ticket stubs, birthday cards. Elise's entire childhood lay waiting, sealed in time, untouched by the silence that followed her departure. I pulled out a stack of photos. Elise as a baby in my arms, her tiny hands gripping my finger. Elise at 5, beaming on her first day of school, her braids lopsided because I'd done them myself after watching a YouTube video. Elise laughing with her mouth full of missing teeth at her 8th birthday, cake smeared across her nose. Then came the drawings. Dozens of them. Some were folded, others curled at the edges, colors faded but still alive. One in particular caught my eye, a crayon sketch of a castle. 2 stick figures stood at the gate, one tall with a crown, the other smaller with a blue dress. Above them, a symbol floated in the air like a badge. A small spiral, half covered by a zigzag line. I blinked. That symbol, it looked exactly like the one on the transparent sticker on the box. The one that read, "Scan before opening." A chill ran down my spine. I remembered that symbol. We'd made it up when she was 7, playing pretend spies in the backyard. She called it her secret Elate. If she ever felt scared during our games, she'd draw that somewhere or whisper it to me. And it meant, danger, trust only Dad. Back then, it was innocent. A game. A code to make her feel protected. But now, she was using it again. Not on a napkin, not in a message, but hidden on a box I wasn't sure she even sent. I sat there, holding the drawing in one hand and feeling the years collapse around me. Why would she use the symbol again after so long? Was she in danger? Was she trying to warn me or lead me towards something? Maybe the box wasn't meant to be opened casually. Maybe it wasn't even for Lorraine to see. Maybe it was only meant for me. I climbed back upstairs, the photo still clutched in my hand, heart beating faster than it had in years. The box waited on the table. Now, it didn't feel like a gift or threat. It felt like a whisper from the past. Dad, it's me. Don't forget the code. I sat across from the box for what felt like hours, the drawing still in my hand. That little spiral and zigzag kept burning into my thoughts like a quiet siren. I knew what it meant. Elisa trusted me once to protect her in a world she didn't yet understand. Now, she was asking for that trust back. But in reverse. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling slightly. Not from fear, exactly, but from the gravity of it all. I dialed the non-emergency line of the local police station. When the dispatcher answered, I took a breath and spoke with measured calm. My name is Raymond Ellis, I said. I received a package this morning. It's from someone I haven't heard from in years, my daughter. There are inconsistencies. I'm not accusing anyone of wrongdoing, but I'd feel better if someone inspected it before I opened it. The dispatcher asked a few questions. I gave them every detail. The odd return label, the erased address beneath it, the sticker, scanned before opening, and the fact that I recognized a symbol only my daughter and I used, hidden in the design. She paused, then said, "We'll send a unit over right away, Mr. Ellis. Please do not touch the package until they arrive." 10 minutes later, 2 squad cars pulled into the driveway. Lorraine hovered near the hallway, arms folded tight. "Are you sure this isn't too much?" she muttered. I didn't answer. I just opened the door. A female officer approached first, offering a gentle nod. "Mr. Ellis." "Yes, it's on the table," I said, stepping back. They entered cautiously. Another officer followed, gloved hands ready, his eyes sweeping the room. They both examined the box closely, speaking in hushed tones. The male officer leaned in, scanning the sticker with a small handheld device. His brow furrowed. "This isn't a commercial tracker," he murmured. Then, as he carefully tilted the box, something beeped softly from inside. He froze. So did I. Within seconds, their posture changed. One radioed for backup while the other placed the box in a secure container they'd brought from the car. The female officer looked at me with steady eyes. "You were right to call," she said. "This package doesn't belong in a home environment." My mouth went dry. Lorraine stepped back a few feet, visibly shaken. They carefully lifted the box, now sealed, and escorted it outside like it held something precious or dangerous. Yellow tape went up around the porch, and I was politely asked to stay inside for the moment. I watched through the window as they placed the container in their vehicle. No chaos, no drama, just silence wrapped in suspicion. And beneath it all, the unmistakable feeling that something much deeper was unfolding, something I was only beginning to understand. The next morning, the doorbell rang again, not with the dread of the day before, but with a steady knock that carried answers. I opened the door to find the same officer from yesterday, the female one. Her face was calm but unreadable. She held a sealed plastic evidence bag in one hand and a small file folder in the other. "Mr. Ellis, may I come in?" I stepped aside, and we sat at the dining table, the same one where the box had waited just a day ago. Lorraine lingered in the kitchen, listening from behind a closed cupboard door, pretending to tidy. The officer set the file down between us. "We've completed the preliminary analysis," she said. "There's something you need to hear and see." She opened the folder and slid out several photographs taken from the in-box contents. A small, high-frequency listening device, no larger than a USB stick, a microchip sealed in a static-free case, and a thick envelope labeled in red marker, "Confessions." I stayed, unable to speak. She continued. "The listening device was live when we intercepted it. It had a silent activation switch, triggered the moment you opened the flap. We're still reviewing the full contents of the chip, but the first few audio files are recordings from inside this house." My breath hitched. "Your living room, your bedroom, Some as recent as last week, she added. But how? I whispered. She slid over a printout. It was a scanned letter, handwritten. Dear Mr. Ellis, if you're reading this, I need you to stay calm. Elise didn't send this box directly. I did. My name is Maya. We went to university together. I work in cybersecurity now. Elise discovered your home was compromised months ago. She suspected someone close to you was recording your private conversations. She tried to reach you, but she didn't want to endanger you by tipping anyone off. This box was her idea. I helped her package it safely so no one would trace it back. The chip includes audio samples, dates, and file paths. Someone placed devices in your home. Please don't confront them yet. Elise still wants to protect you. Maya. My eyes didn't move from the letter for a long time. Lorraine said nothing from the other room. The air grew heavier. How long? I asked. The officer didn't answer directly. Some of the oldest files go back over 2 years. There are fragments of private arguments, bedtime conversations, even financial details being discussed aloud. And just like that, the walls around me felt unfamiliar. My own home, the one place I believed to be mine, had been listening. Do you know who placed them? I asked. We have a few ideas, she said, her tone careful, but would like your permission to sweep the house discreetly today. Elise didn't want to risk exposing you to the person behind it without preparation. I nodded slowly, voice dry. Yes, please, do whatever you need. The officer stood, closing the folder. There's more coming, Mr. Ellis. But this much we know, your daughter never stopped caring. She just found a way to reach you, without risking your life. I watched her leave, file in hand, and I looked at the empty space on the table where the box once sat today. The silence in the room was louder now, but not because of fear. Because the truth had finally knocked, and I had answered. She didn't say a word the rest of that day. The officers moved through the house silently, methodically, like surgeons. They found the first book behind the bookshelf in the living room. The second was inside the smoke detector above our bed. The third, tucked beneath the frame of my study desk, was so well hidden I wouldn't have spotted it in 100 years. Each discovery tightened the noose of suspicion around Lorraine, though no one said her name. Not yet, but I saw her flinch with every find. Her hands trembled as she washed dishes that didn't need washing. She didn't meet my eyes once. That night, after the officers left and the house settled into a strange, violated quiet, she came to the doorway of my study. I didn't look up. She stood there for a while, arms crossed like a shield, her breath uneven. Finally, she spoke. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I turned slowly. Her eyes were glassy, her voice fragile. I was afraid, Ray. Afraid she'd come back and take you away from me. I didn't say anything. She always looked at me like I was intruding, like I didn't belong. And maybe I didn't. But every time she smiled at your old stories, or mentioned her mother, I felt like I was the shadow in the room. Her hands dropped to her sides. So I did it. I planted the first one after she left. I just wanted to know what you were thinking, what you were feeling, whether you missed her more than me. Her voice cracked. I found someone online who helped me get the devices. Said it would just be a precaution. But then I heard you talking about her, defending her, wanting to find her, and I panicked. Tears spilled down her cheeks now, unrestrained. I tampered with the guardianship papers, altered the timeline of Elise's medical history in the records, just so she wouldn't have a legal path back to you. I didn't think she'd ever find out, but she did, quietly, carefully, and she never tried to hurt me. She just wanted to protect you. She took a step forward, voice now barely audible. I'm sorry. I know you'll never trust me again, but I wasn't trying to destroy anything. I just wanted you to be mine. I thought if I controlled the past, I could control the future. I sat still, watching the woman I once believed I knew unravel in front of me. But the truth had been stitched into the walls for years, and I was only now learning how deeply silence can deceive. It arrived in the mail 2 days later, a plain white envelope, hand-addressed in the same K-full, looping letters I once saw on Father's Day cards and I love you notes taped to the fridge. No return address. No stamp. It had been hand-delivered. Inside was a single page, folded twice. No perfume, no dramatic ink, just words. Honest, calm, heavy with time. Dear Dad, if you're reading this, it means you know. I didn't hate you. I never could. I stepped away to protect you. Not from me, but from everything you didn't know was surrounding you. I didn't want you to lose her, even after what she did. I knew if I told you the truth too early, you'd defend her. And I couldn't bear watching you choose silence over me again. So I waited, and I watched, and I found a way to get the truth to you without exposing you to more pain than necessary. I'm sorry this had to happen like this, through codes and recordings and a friend who owed me a favor. I wish I could have just knocked on your door like old times. If you want to talk, if you're ready, I'll be at Eden Hill Cafe on June 25th, at noon. It's a neutral place. No expectations. No pressure. You don't have to come, Dad. But I'll be there, waiting, just in case. Elise. I read it twice, then a third time. By the fourth, I wasn't even reading, just holding the paper, letting the silence between her lines speak louder than any apology. She had been there all along, protecting me from behind the scenes, while I sat in my ignorance, thinking she had abandoned me. And now she was offering a doorway, not back to the past, but towards something new. June 25th. That was 4 days away. I went upstairs and pulled out a small overnight bag. The kind you pack when you don't know how long you'll be gone, but know you can't stay. Lorraine stood in the doorway, arms folded. Her eyes were red but no longer pleading. Just tired. "You're really going?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I zipped the bag slowly and turned to her. "I should have gone years ago." She looked away, lips pressed thin. "I never meant to keep her from you." "But you did." Silence stretched between us like a drawbridge half-raised. I walked past her, bag in hand. In the foyer, I paused for a moment and glanced at the wall, the one that used to hold a photo of Elise and her mother. The frame was gone now, but I could still see the outline in the dust. I stepped out into the daylight, feeling its warmth like a memory reborn. Somewhere, in a small cafe with too many plants and chip mugs, my daughter would be waiting. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to meet her, not as the man who'd lost her, but as the one willing to find her again. The cafe was tucked between a florist and a bookstore, just as Elise had described. Eden Hill Cafe. I had driven past it a dozen times over the years without ever noticing it. Strange how some places only reveal themselves when you're finally ready to see them. It was just past noon. The summer light filtered through the tall windows, painting soft amber streaks on the wooden floors. A gentle hum of conversation surrounded me, but I only heard my heartbeat. Then I saw her. She sat by the window, a mug in her hand, a book closed beside her. Her hair was longer now, dark at the roots and tied back loosely. She wore no makeup, no show, just simplicity, grace, strength. And yet, the moment she looked up, I saw her. My daughter, my Elise. She smiled, hesitant at first, as if afraid I'd vanish. I stepped forward. "Hi, Dad." I hadn't heard her voice in years, but it was exactly how I remembered. Warm, even when cautious. "Hi, baby." She stood, and I did something I wasn't sure I still had the right to do. I hugged her. She didn't flinch. She just melted into the embrace. And for the first time in 3 long, aching years, the world softened. We sat, and for hours we just talked. About nothing. About everything. About the missing years. About her job in digital security. Her new apartment. Her dog, Milo. Her best friend Maya, the one who had helped with the package. And then about the hard things. The pain. The betrayal. The silence. We didn't rush through them. We sat in them. Cried through them. And still, we stayed. Near the end, she reached into her tote and pulled out a wrapped bundle. Inside was a photo album, handmade. On the cover, written in gold ink, "The years you didn't see, but I lived." I opened it and found pages of a life. Graduations, her first car, birthdays with friends, coffee mornings, hikes, quiet moments, bold ones, her smiling, living, growing, without me, but never without love. When we parted, I didn't beg her to come home. She didn't ask me to stay longer. We both knew this wasn't about fixing everything in a day. It was about beginning again. That night, I returned home. The house was quiet. Lorraine's things were gone from the guest room. A note said she was giving me space. Maybe forever. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just breathed. Then, one by one, I began removing the old devices. Every hidden bug. Every dusty wire. I opened drawers I hadn't touched in years. I shredded documents that no longer mattered. I tossed out the fears that had bound me to a version of truth I never questioned. The box, of course, was long gone. But what it gave me remained. I stood in the hallway, alone in the stillness of my own home, and whispered to no one in particular. On Father's Day, my daughter didn't just send a box. She sent me back to myself.